Talk about the misconception from the outside world
Yeah.
of people, how you were treated. I know the emails came through. You talked about social media coming through. How that was directed to you when the misconception was wrong in terms of the reason of what you were doing.
That is the particularly frustrating thing for me. People try to discredit what Colin and I were doing by saying we weren't performing well, which is so contrary to what was actually true. Like my last season, I broke 2 records, and I got cut after that. And so, me and my agent did the research, and we couldn't find another instance in the history of the game where there's an athlete that broke multiple records and then not only got cut but never played again.
Yeah.
So the misconception that we weren't performing on the field was a crazy
BS,
one.
yeah.
I don't dwell on it. I wish it would have been different, but hey, you got to move forward.
Really know if this is my last time, but what I know is I'm feeling just fine. My life is like a red carpet, and I'm feeling like the richest millionaire. This is my local mayor, and I'm the biggest star around here.
What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. More importantly, you saw the clip. That's Eric Reed, former NFL safety. He was the safety that took a knee with Colin Kaepernick. But the video in itself is about observing racism. I saw a clip a few days ago, and a guy was like, he got racially profiled, and the officer, he was like, "You did this because I'm black," and then the officer was like, "Here we go." And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's just have this conversation for my page at least. So I'm gonna talk about some real life stuff, just so y'all, understand. What happens with racism is you observe it. Like, how do people know stuff is racist? It's because you've observed it, you've experienced it, and you've talked to people. And all those people ain't black. So when I say observing racism, this is the first thing I'm talking about. You can watch how people are treated as how different groups are treated by different groups of people. You get what I'm saying? So I can be sitting in a classroom, and the teacher treats this group this way, this group this way, this group this way, and my group a certain way. As a kid, you notice it. You get what I'm saying? So you observe it, right? The teacher grades these people's grades, fairly. These people's grades unfairly, and these people grades, they get all these extras to bump them up to make them better than they are. You notice the difference, right? It's not just sometimes people think it's an individual thing where people like certain individuals. No, what winds up happening is it extends to individuals, but groups get treated differently. That's a true story. I had a teacher who would hide all the black male papers in particular and give us failing grades, but she hid all of our test scores and homework scores. True story. So you observe it, right? I observe police interactions, you know, whether it's a singular cop on the scene interacting with different groups of people, or their partners or interacting with different groups of people. I say the worst thing I saw, it wasn't police brutality. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing I saw was a Hispanic kid who was breaking into houses, and the cops came on the scene. It was two partners, a white man, black woman, and the Hispanic boy's mom ran out and was like, "Please, please, please, no, 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 don't take my son to jail." Blah 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 blah. And she was like, "His father, he's a good kid. His father's white. His father's coming. His father's on the way." And when he said that, I was working at the time, so I was supposed to be where I was at. They just happened to be the stop happened where I was at. And she was like, "I'm gonna call his dad. I'm calling his dad." And the white cop started getting a little lenient, and the black female cop, she looked over because she saw me looking like, and then she put her head down like, God. Now this ain't the first time I saw something like that, but it is what it is. Like I remember I was at a football camp at the University of Michigan, and we had some white roommates. and the white roommates had a little less than an ounce of weed on them. And they came back to the room, and this goes to the interactions part. They came back to the room, and it was like, "Oh man, we just got pulled over. What? Pulled over for what? I mean, yeah, we had a. How did you pull over? It was, oh, we had some weed on us, and cops just took it. It happens all the time. It's like all the time, y'all get caught with weed like that all the time. Yeah, and it's like, don't it happen to you? And we're all black in that room, and it's like, no, we'd be in jail for that. And they're like, what? No. So, and as I got older, you had observing racism is like when men and women talk about like police traffic stops. Like ladies will say they've got out of so many tickets, and guys like, how? But I'm a woman, and that's what observing racism is like when you have interactions, because people tell you stories and they're like, that you mean you couldn't get away with that? No, the same thing where you can observe the difference, say in a fight. If it's a fight, it's a bunch of black people there, police coming and running out on people, somebody getting arrested. But if you go somewhere and it's predominantly white and a bunch of white people there and it's a fight, or it's a Hispanic place and a bunch of Hispanic people getting a fight, don't really go the same way. People just go home. We watch the difference in that. Like I remember I was in a traffic court. Black man, white man, Chinese man. No. So I'm black, of course. There's an old white guy and this Hispanic guy. We weren't the only three, but we kind of, basically our approaching the judge was similar to time frame. The white dude was up first, old white guy. He talking reckless, disrespectful, cussing at the judge. Judge is white. He ain't saying nothing. The clerk is Hispanic, ain't saying nothing. So you observe it and you're like, y'all ain't gonna. He just going, I'm gonna do what the hell I want. I'm gonna do the shit when I leave. And I'm just like, I'm not exaggerating. Okay. So the Hispanic dude comes up and the judge looks at him. He hits the no habla inglés. And he tells the clerk who's Hispanic, well, if he don't speak English, he was about to smack him out with a righteous ticket, right? And he's like, wait a minute. The dude spoke English quick. And then the guy that was doing the translate looked at his Hispanic friend and was like, this motherfucker, God. So, he was trying. So then I get up. He immediately, it was like a registration or something like that. And he just went in going hard. And I'm just sitting there like, this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Same scenario. Like, you see the difference. If I'm at work, because I work outside, my white coworkers don't get the police called on them when they're at work. But I think pretty much the majority of all the black males have had the police called on them. You get what I'm saying? So you observe that, and people go, "Nah, man, what are you talking about? Racism? It's not." And you hear the story from story to story. The traffic stops are different. If I get stopped, a gun might come out. But even before they get to the car, regular traffic stop, nothing crazy, just regular traffic stop. I've had more stops I've had more traffic stops with a gun pulled on me than I've had traffic stops without a gun pulled on me. You get what I'm saying? So, and they've just been traffic stops. Slow down, or you might be speeding, or you roll and stop. It's just, any stuff like that, or just I'm gonna pull you over to see if I can find something. That's all that. But you talk to other people, they don't have those instances. And why I went from like being in school to being a working adult, I'm just pointing out how people go, oh no, that's not true. It's like, yeah, it's very true. Because you observe it. So when people say, yeah, it's racial, people go, no, it's not, because let me add to that. Because we observe white people with white people in America. We observe Hispanics with Hispanics, Asians with Asians, and everybody has their good and bad or whatever. But we see people giving people breaks and hookups. Like I had a coworker who walked into a grocery store, and And this is grocery store, is a major grocery store here in Texas. She walked into the grocery store. She was buying stuff, and then she's like, "I want that." And the lady's like, "Oh, hey, just take it with you." And I'm there because we just happened to be there around the same time. And I'm looking, and she's like, "Yeah, hey man, that's what they do." And she's a white lady, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, you just take it. And I've seen people do this before, but people don't talk about it. Like, I went to the mall, and me and the dude was cool, security guy. I think I told the story before. I was going in, he wanted to check my bag, blah, 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 when I was leaving. And I was like, cool. He said, just got to make sure you're not stealing. So I just casually told him, I said, listen, man, if I wanted to steal, what I would do is I would get some white people to actually steal while you was watching me. And I could see the light bulb go off in his head, like, God, dang. Dang, because he was a cool dude. He was cool, but it was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense. Because I got white friends. Like, you observe the difference. Like, you in the suburbs, you could see, like, I've seen it where white guy, might be in his garage with the garage open, like, because he turned the garage into a man cave, sitting on the couch just smoking weed. Cops just drive right by. You can smell the weed on the whole block. You can see him smoking. The cops just drive right by. But if you smell weed in the car and they look black, pulled over immediately. It's like, or walking down the street. It's just weird shit. So you observe the small things. Like, we were talking about how companies, there are these failing companies out here, big, and they could be tens, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars in debt, and they keep getting funded and funded and funded and funded. You'd never see a black company with that. So we observe the racism, we're observing it, we're watching it, we're looking at it. So when we say, yeah, that's racial, people go, no. Like, using what Eric Reed was talking about, you basically got fired after breaking records. That's a racial thing. You get what I'm saying? That, like, nobody else deals with something like that. You can't even explain it. You don't have to, right? So when people say, hey man, this is like, true story. My dad had a heart attack and he died in the hospital. But they revived him. And he said what happened was he died and his nurses were white and Asian, and they wouldn't resuscitate him. They wouldn't even attempt to. They just backed off. And he was like, a black doctor. It was a black Cuban doctor actually resuscitated him because the other priest was like, nah, don't worry about it. Everybody's back, like, they just let him flatline and he was about to walk off. So when you see, like, when you come across these stories and people say this stuff, people go, nah. Matter of fact, let me add another one. My grandfather, when Hurricane Katrina was in New Orleans and people, the streets was flooded and they were picking people up by helicopter. My grandfather was one of the people on the roofs that needed to get a helicopter to pick them up. And he was like, yeah, like, everybody who was there, we saw what happened. I was like, what you talking about? I kind of figured it, but I just waited for him to say it. He was like, what you saw on the news was people getting picked up in a helicopter. Like, yeah. He said what was happening was the helicopters was coming up picking up white people. And until they got all the white people, they didn't help nobody black, or because it's New Orleans, it's pretty much white and black. So he said that's what was happening. And when I say people, we observe, you observe racism. People go, what? Yeah. It's like, yeah. We see it. You know what I'm saying? We see it time and time and time again. You ever been a place where, like, if you watching something, because people don't realize we'll frequent places and maybe come back later. You go somewhere and you go into an establishment and they overcharge you for something you saw them charge somebody a different price for. You're like, wait, I thought this cost such and such. I don't know, that doesn't cost that. And it's like when you go places where they don't have the what do you call that? When they don't have the stuff, when they don't have the prices in front of you. When you go to those places, you know, and you buy something, it's like, what? Or, you know, sometimes I've been places and I had to pay for something. And it sucks to say it. I mean, I'm not even gonna use me as a story. I got a family member who went somewhere and paid for something and assumed he couldn't afford it. He wasn't even talking. He was just, yo, I need that, you know what I'm saying? And when he paid for it, they stalled him and then he called the police on him to make sure he could afford it after he paid for the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's that type of stuff. You get what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And here's the thing, like, say you go into businesses and you know, and I've seen white people come in there and exchange stuff, and I've seen you know, Asians and Hispanic people exchange stuff, and it's like the way the situation looks is like, yo, that's stolen. That's stolen, or you know, it's obviously stolen. I don't have a receipt. I don't have nothing. I just okay, bring it back, and it's like that's stolen, yo. This is their hustle. Like you can tell if you're paying attention, right? But because they're not black, it's just like, okay, well, you know, just bring it in over and over and over again. I've seen situations where even bringing the police. If you observe, if you live long enough and you see certain things, when it comes to, you know, and when I say police, like if it's white people chasing white people, or white people or Hispanics with Hispanics, or Asians with Asians, you know, I've seen those scenarios. That's what I'm talking about. Somehow, when the people are the same ethnicity or partner with somebody of that same ethnicity, somehow they just can't really catch the criminal. Ah. Or if they catch him, let me give him a slap on the wrist. It's not that serious. And it's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, if you see that sometimes, like I said, if somebody has a black partner, you see the black partner go extra hard. You know, if the black partner is paired with a non-black person, now they go extra hard to be more blue than black, but their coworker is more white than blue, or Hispanic than blue, or Asian than blue. And you kind of looking, and if as you age and as you get older, you start putting this stuff together, because sometimes you run into the exact same people at a different time and they don't realize it. So you observe the racism. You know what I'm saying? And like I said earlier, so when you talk to people in different groups, because you wind up kicking it with people, befriending people, and they start saying the things that they do, and you're like, how could you do? How? Like, how can I say this? Boy, there are certain things, there are certain business practices that white people have, and sometimes Hispanics have, and Asians have, that are completely legal, unethical, but completely legal. But if you do it, it goes from legal to illegal. You get what I'm saying? And they like, go do this. It's like, nah. Or I've seen people throw themselves under the bus where a person says, yeah, we could do that. And then they do it. And then they get the book thrown at them. And the person's like, oh, I don't get it. And it's like, yeah, man, I didn't expect that. And it's like, that's the rules of the country, buddy. But I'm going to stop there because this is a longer video. But I might expound on it if somebody asks, but whatever. But like, share, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Catch you on the next one. Peace.
All I ask is when you lay your head on that pillow at night, know I gave you everything I had.